Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Welcome all the guests. We have some very choshev guests. Shalom, what's your name? Abi? Braha. From? Shkefayim. Shalom Aleichem. Come more often. What's your name, sir? Rabbi David Weiner, all the way from Chicago. Good friend of mine. And your name? David Spiegelman. From? Baltimore. Ner Tamid. For real? Yeah. Wow. The guys over there had some issues with me, with the Gemara that I read even.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't you? Okay. I thought it's you. You came to square things out. All right. We love you, Ner Tamid. You know, you're talking about Ner Tamid. I just got a message from Fischl. Fischl flew down to Miami to Michael Bench's wedding, I believe. He told me he's there. Shalom Aleichem. You moved back? Wow. Givaldik. You know Avi Kamiansky from Chicago? He's a landsman. Yeah. Okay. Who else? Do we have guests? Any other guests? Shalom Aleichem. Dear Rebelli, you mentioned the story of a phone falling out of a plane. This happened today. They found a working phone that fell out of the plane that the door ripped off. The one, the Alaskan airline. Mamish a kiss from Hashem, your Talmud Moshe Joseph, since Chagiga. And here it says the phone was still in airplane mode after it fell 16,000 feet, perfectly intact. It even had a message on it from the Alaskan Air baggage report. Your baggage will be there when you land. Penny Fraiman, hi, I've been doing the daf with you since Nazir, and I really enjoy it. My line that keeps me going is, it doesn't take 7 years to finish Shas, it takes every day. Thank you for the amazing share, PK. This one is from Shapsi Cohen in Hebrew, and I have to translate back into, you're a guest, no? Sort of? Brooklyn. Of course. That's your father. Shalom Aleichem, father. Anyway, he says like this, that he joined the Hebrew shir and he listened to a bunch of them. He likes it a lot, but we have to let people know that we're doing the Hebrew shir. So basically he's saying that the best way to do it is friend brings a friend, put it on your status, on your WhatsApp. And I just got a message today from our very own Yossi Klein. He says, I just reached out to 2 people. One wasn't doing it anymore, and he came back. So the kids are reaching out to your friends and reminding them is also a very good way to get people to learn Torah. And we did a whole thing yesterday in the Hebrew shir to show how to put your things on status, because a lot of the old guys like myself don't know how to do that. Rabbi Isai, we're jumping right into the sponsors. We have a lot of sponsors today. Baruch Hashem. Anonymous from Lakewood, Refuah for Tinuk Ben Malka. He's sponsoring the Koil for the month. The entire Masech is sponsored for the unity of Am Yisrael. What's the matter? Nothing. Oh, okay. The Paras HaChodesh, Yosef and Chaya, Sara for all the zchusim that come from supporting limud Torah. Paras HaChodesh, Yedidya Pereira. Lezchut ziווג bקרוב בקרוב מיכל חיים שולמית ושושנה ברכה. Rav Noam, Gary, Avi, Gary, and Yosef for all your relentless commitment to MDY. Paras HaChodesh, zchaya bas Yosef. 5th Paras HaChodesh, Ahron Fraiman, and should be zchusim for Rebelli for continuing the Shmaya for teaching Torah to Klal Yisroel. Paras HaChodesh, Nishmas kol chayalei tzahal shenaflu al kiddush Hashem. Shalom Aleichem, all the Zoom guys. Yeah, you can look over there, you see them. In memory of our very own Binyomin Airley. We had his father's right here, Robert. His son, Binyomin, was killed in Gaza. In memory of Binyomin Airley, from Anonymous in Manchester, who joined the shir at the beginning of Soito. Parnas Hayoim, Avrumi Braun, in honor of my dear friend and role model, Kalmy S, that introduced me to MDY. Parnas Hayoim, Gilalea Pilait Bat Esther Malka. For Shlema, Yerchmil Seplowitz, Lilishmas, my wonderful mom, Nesya Bas Zev Aleh Shalom, our 7th yard side. 4th, Parnas Hayoim, Michael Chesel, in honor of Eli Benchetrit, Isaac Ovadia on their marriage. Mazel Tov. And Moshe Wilner, Lili Nishmas, 5 Moshe Ben David Zalman, and the Art of the Month, sponsored Anonymous for the schos, for an easy childbirth, his daughter, and a healthy baby. Rabbi Isai, here we go. We are holding on Daf Amud Beis towards the bottom. 4 lines from the bottom. So, Shiloh, to think about before you answer. Think for a second. A person steals fruit steals fruit, and instead of taking Trumas and Maisrus, he eats it as is Tevel. Which one is a greater Isser, would you think? Not that we judge these kind of things, but if you had a guess, which one is a greater Isser? To steal is Isser Deraisa, to eat Tevel is Isser Deraisa. Which one, if you use it up now, you're not going to have anything else for the rest of the year. Bar mitzvah boy. Yeah. Oh, Baruch, come. Baruch. I have some guests from Chicago. I want to introduce you to my guests. Come. Baruch Fraiman, he just came from Gaza. He's a Chaya in Gaza. He said it's enough. It's never enough. Never enough, Baruch. Every time we see you, you look more relaxed. You look more relaxed this time. You slept a little bit this week? Okay. Okay. So new, anybody? Nobody wants to answer? Bar mitzvah boy, you used it up. Go. Wrong. Okay. Yeah, you used it up and you're wrong. Yeah, what? So it's worse than Teva, which is right. Very nice. Nice answer. I don't think that's the answer, though. It's a good answer. Very good answer. You can't fix it. Oh, so you're saying the opposite. Very good. You're also saying very good.
Yes.
Maybe you could do tshuva. Huh? I think they're both, well, based on what I'm saying, I might be wrong completely. I have a different idea that I want to say. I will get to that. So, but they both said very, very nice things. So anyways, we're in the middle of a sugya of Yush. Yush is somebody gives up and he doesn't think he's ever going to find the item that he lost or that was stolen from him. He gives up. Is that a kinyan or not a kinyan? And we learned about this tray kind of thing. Basically, there's a piece of leather that they made it into a tray. I don't know if it's fashioned this nicely with all the edges and everything, but it's a tray nevertheless. And the Gemara says that he's koinet. The Gemara explains not because of the yush so much, it's a combination of the yush and the shinui Hashem. Two things occur here. The name also changed. It went from a piece of leather to a table, to a tray. Call it whatever you want to call it. Itzaba, whatever the Gemara calls it. A barzin. It changed names. And that in conjunction with the fact that the owner gave up on it, that creates a kinyan. It becomes the ganav's. Now, what does it mean it becomes the ganav? It becomes his that he doesn't have to return that particular piece. He has to return the money, obviously. Now, once we're talking about Yush, and we're right in the beginning of the sugya, and we have some very chashuv guests, so I want to say a quick story. I've said this before, but this is also brought down in Rav Nachman Seltzer's book. We're big into Rav Nachman Seltzer's book these days. It's a murder story. There was a very successful businesswoman who would work in her shop selling fabric, and once a year she would go to Kovna and purchase whatever she needed to purchase. So the entire year she would save up money for this purchase. And she goes to Kovna and she's about to make her first purchase of silk or whatever it was, and she realized that her money is lost. Everything she brought on the train is gone. So the owner of the hotel felt really bad for her. People that knew her felt bad for her, and they started screaming in the streets, did anybody find the purse? Did anybody find the purse? Sure enough, a nice, shiny yid, tall, nice guy comes along and says, yeah, I found it. Well, what are the simanim? She says, I had this and this money, the purse had this scratch on it, this button's missing. He says, very good, very good. But there's a halacha that says that if the most of the people that live in the city are non-Jewish, so you're miyayish, you give up. You feel that nobody's going to be mekayim the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, and therefore, guess what? I'm not giving it back. And that's like the story we had yet. So why did you come forward? To say thank you. I don't know, whatever. Okay. So the people were really upset at him. Hey, this is her livelihood. She worked the whole year for this. Let's go to the Rav. Where do you go? To Rav Yitzchak Khan Inspector. He was the Gal Adar. So go to Rav Yitzchak Khan Inspector and he listens to both sides and he says, I hear. There's Yush and you don't have to give it back. And he speaks to the woman. Turns out, he asks her, what does your husband do? He learns all this. So I'm supporting my husband to learn Torah. And who owns the shop? He says, he owns the shop. So what are you? Turns out that she's more of a shliach than an owner. She was the agent of her husband. She says, oh, if you're the agent of the husband, you don't have the right to be miyash. The the owner of the cash in this case is the husband. And the husband didn't even know that it was lost. You didn't call up there's no phone, there's no. So therefore, you have to give it back, and he had to give it back, and everybody was happy besides the shiny Yid. And that's a story about Yush. Anything that I missed from the story? Oh, the Alter Kelm said, Nugo.
People come down to this world,
and
then they become Miyayish. But you don't have the right to be Miyayish because you're not a
Oh, the Firois. You hear.
He heard the story and he said in the yeshiva.
The Alter Kelm said,
you don't have the right to be Miyayish on yourself.
Gary, are you able to hear him? Do I have to repeat it? You hear him fine. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Beautiful. Says the Gemara like this. V'harei Morish, we're holding 4 lines from the bottom. V'harei Morish dikashini Hashem. So Yoshi did this back in the day. It's not 100% halachically correct, but visually it's nice. Basically, if a person steals a beam, you see this beam in the ceiling, here we go. A guy steals a beam. Now, in this particular case, he takes it out of a house. I would much rather it being out of the lumber yard. Okay? Because over here it's already, we have an issue, what's going on. A guy steals a beam. What do we call a beam? We call a beam. But once you insert it into a mansion, it's no longer a beam, it's part of the house. Now, if you take out the beam, we force him to return it, what happens? It starts cracking up and the whole house can fall down. So the halach is like this. When a person steals a beam, inserts it in his house, it's no longer called a beam. The mikara kishura, before it was called a beam, now it's a ceiling. Usnan, and we learned in the Mishnah, ala morish. In Gittin, that we just recently learned it, when we learned Gittin, it's in the Mishnah, these are certain takanas chacham said. Ala morish hagazel shabnoi bebira, that if a person steals a beam and he puts it into a mansion, shenoitel damav b'vnei takanas hashav, we feel bad for the guy that wants to do tshuva and return the beam. So what we do is, we say just pay for the beam and that's it. So the Gemara is medayik time of bnei takanas hashavim. The whole point of paying cash and not giving back the beam is because Chacham said, midaraisa, you have to give back the beam. You have to tear down your house. We'll be nice to you. We feel bad for people that want to do tshuva. But what's going on here? Why? Why do I have to come onto this whole takanas chachamim? If there's a concept called shinui shem, that once the name changed and it's no longer a beam, it's a house. So now it really becomes midaraisa. It should become the ganavs, and nothing to do with takanas chachamim of takanas shavim. Do you believe in this idea called Shinui Hashem or not? Rav Yosef, Morish, Shema Yalav. When we're talking about a beam, we're talking about a joist that goes from side to side in the house. That name stays with it. The Sanya, Salis Habayis. In Yecheskel, when Baruch Hu tells Yecheskel, he gives him the Nevuah, the Mara, he shows him what the future Beis Hamikdash, the Bayis Shlishi is going to look like. He talks about Salis Habayis. These are the casings around the doors, the casing around the windows like we have here in the Beis Medrash, wooden casings. The casings that hold up, this is the best, this is not even a good picture, but imagine that piece of wood that goes north-south in this picture, top to bottom, that's a beam of a house. So if you made a wooden holding for it, a casing to hold up that beam, today we have joist holders, whatever they're called. But in those days, they were made out of wood. So he showed him these wooden devices, to protect the wood from the moisture that comes off the brick, etc. Elu hamilatitin va'ubim. These are the frames, the wooden frames, says Rashi, that go around the windows and the doors. I'm sorry, hamilatitin va'ubim. And what's ubim? Elu hamirishois. So if you take this word of marishois, you cut it in half, you come up with marish. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a joist, a beam, a marish. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing Yecheskel the bias, and he's saying, look at this beam. He calls it a beam, a marish. So what do you see? He didn't call it, look at this Beis Hamikdash. He said, look at this beam. It's still called a beam even though it was installed inside the Beis Hamikdash. So a beam is different. A beam never loses its name. Rebbe Zera Omar, Shinu Achoiz Libriyosoi, B'Shinu Hashem. I'm just thinking out loud that certain shuls, and I remember from Pesach, the Pesach Beis Medrash, the whole beauty of the Beis Medrash were the beams that held up the roof. It's like 6 giant beams, circular beams, and so you call them the beams. These are beams. They're not They're not part of the ceiling. They're beams. Reb Zeira Omar Shinui Hachoiz Libriosoi B'Shini Hashem Lo Yhave Shinui. So he says like this. In America, you can find repurposed wood, right? Whatever they call it. Reclaimed, thank you, reclaimed wood. Basically, you knock down a barn, you knock down a house, and the joists, the beams, like in this picture, are perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. Wood is wood, it lasts forever. You can even see the nails and everything that the drywall, the plaster was stuck. So once I take down the house and I put these beams in a pile, what do I call these beams? I call them a ceiling or I call them beams. I'm selling what? I'm selling beams, I'm selling joists. So the name comes back. So any item that starts out with one name, now you put it into a house, we give it another name, we call it a ceiling. And now, once we knock down the house, it goes back to its original form, its original name. So it's a Shina Chayz Libriyasai. This is a name that comes back. And when it comes to Shina Hashem, Lo Yhave Shinui, that's not considered a good enough change. Okay? By one of the beautiful videos that came out, this uncle promised that if his niece would be saved and come out of captivity, he'll start keeping Shabbos. It's a very emotional video when he finds out. They come and they tell him, hey, your niece is out. Ori Megidosh. Ori Megidosh. And he starts keeping Shabbos and he talks about it. And when I read this, it came to me like that was my argosha. Nobody's going to understand why I'm saying this. But to me, it was like, he has a Shini Hashem. We call him the non-religious and the religious. But at the end of the day, it's a Shini Hashem, it's one of these, it's just the name. But at the end of the day, we come back to where we belong. We're all Yidden, we all serve Hashem. And it's one of these, it's a Shem Levai. It's nothing. It's not, you are categorized like this and he's categorized like this. It's a Shini Hashem, Achayz L'Briyasai. V'Shini Hashem, Shein Achayz L'Briyasai, you have a Shinu. And if it doesn't go back to its original name, it's not considered a change. Varei Tzinor. What about a pipe? Dimikoro Ketzitzta V'Hashta Tzinoira. In the beginning, it was just a piece of wood. And you take a piece of wood and you hollow out the piece of wood and you come up with a pipe. Vitanya. So here's a diagram. This is a piece of wood that was hollowed out and became a pipe. So I want to explain Taisus over here. When it comes to water and a mikvah, we're talking about a mikvah now. A mikvah has to have 40 sa of water that was never drawn in a vessel. Straight rainwater. They do different tricks. It comes right off the roof, right into the mikvah. What if you caught the rainwater in a pail? Nothing. It's not considered proper kosher rainwater for the mikvah. So this guy goes ahead and he makes himself a pipe. Is this considered a kli or not a kli? So Taisa says this particular pipe over here is not a kli. Why? It can't hold water. You put water in one end, it'll come out the other end. A kli has to have 4 sides to it. So says Taisa must be, I like what Yoshi did over here, must be that he did something like this. He went a little deeper. He made it like a siphon, like they have the U-shapes under the sinks today, a trap, to trap dirt, stones, whatever. So if you have water coming by this pipe, it'll get trapped in that little, now you have a base kibble. Now you have something that holds water, and it's considered a kli. Now, it depends when he fashioned this little trap over here. If he attached it to the ground, and then he hollowed out the pipe, and he made a trap, then it's as if he made the ground a trap. You're allowed to take ground and make a hole in the ground. It doesn't become a kli. It's part of the ground. So that won't pass all the water of the mikvah. But if you have this in your shop, you have a piece of wood, and you hollow it out, and you make a trap, now you have a kli. Then you do this. Look what you do. Then you attach this piece to the ground, and then from there, you bring the water into the mikvah. That's a no-no. That's not kosher water. So the Gemara wants to understand why. We could perhaps bring this halacha of Shini Hashem into this sugya. That what? It was a piece of wood. Now it's called a pipe. Vitanya. And we learned, you hollowed out a pipe, and then you installed it, it's considered mayim shuvim. And mayim shuvim, if you have 3 lug of mayim shuvim, it ruins the mikvah. Kavai, but if you installed it first, and then you hollowed it out, it's as if you dug out from the ground. And if you tell me that changing a name creates something here, so what does it help that you installed it and then you hollowed it out? It should become pasul. Why? Because today it's considered there's a pipe in the ground, not ground, it's a pipe. The fact that I call it a pipe should ruin this mikvah. How that works exactly? Why is that similar to hilchas gneva, etc.? Okay, I guess it's similar. Says the Gemara, Shani Shiva dim de Rabbanani. This whole halacha, the 3 lug pasels a mikvah with drawn water is only Isser de Rabbanan, and Rabbanan weren't machmir when it comes to something that's already attached to the ground. Says the Gemara, Yahachi. If that's the case, only Rabbanan afil the Reishanami. So even if you took a real piece of wood that's already fashioned as a kli and you put it into the ground, why is that a problem? We don't care. It's only the Rabbanan. It's already attached to the ground. So why are you making a big deal out of it? Says the Gemara, Hasamika Torah's kli alav. Because once it's fashioned as a kli, so we call it a pipe. It's already a kli, bit talush, before it's attached, and therefore this Isser de Rabbanan that's a kli doesn't just go away. It was there before you attach it. Over here, it wasn't called a kli beforehand. And it's attached to the ground, so we're not going to add that name to it. We're not going to make it a problem because it's only the Rabbanan. But to get rid of it, the Rabbanan, we're not going to do. Meisvei. Haganav, Hagazlan, Va'anos. You have 3 types of people. A guy that steals in middle of the day, that's a Gazlan. A guy that steals at night. And the Anos is a guy that he says, here's the money. I'm giving you money here, like this picture. I'm giving you money. I want your watch. Hegdesh and Hegdesh, if they take whatever they took and they give it to like in this case, they take the watch, he takes the watch and gives it to the Beis HaMikdash. It's Hegdesh. Now, how can it be Hegdesh? You can't take somebody else's watch and make it Hegdesh. You can't take somebody else's animal and make it a carbon. Must be that we're talking about Yush here. The original owner just gave up. That's it. He's done. He doesn't want to fight. And therefore, it becomes the Ganav. And when it comes to Ganav, he has the right to make it Hegdesh. Utrumasim Truma. And if he steals fruit, we're getting the Bar Mitzvah boy. Steals fruit, and he makes Truma from it. It's a good Truma. Umasroi is a Meiser. And his Meiser is Meiser. So, first of all, there's a story with the Rav Chaim Brisker that he summoned the head of the local robbers. He said, come to my office. The guy comes in, they respected each other. And Rav Chaim says, in the middle of the shmooze, he says, I could keep a secret, but you have to tell me the truth. Okay, deal. He says, why is it that, do you agree that you steal, if you have an opportunity to steal on Shabbos, you steal? He says, yeah. So would that mean that if you have he says, yeah, listen, stealing is stealing. So that means that if you come to a place on Shabbos and you have to get in, so you break the lock to get in? He says, yeah. He says, and if you have to turn on the lights to look at, yeah. So, okay, do you ever steal from a non-Jew? He says, of course, equal opportunity. He says, and what if you find like a non-kosher food in the fridge? Would you take it? He goes, yeah. And what would you do with it? He says, I would sell it. He says, why would you sell it? Why don't you eat it? He says, Rebbe, what are you crazy? I'm going to eat chazer. I'm going to eat treif. So he says, I don't understand. The Isser Derais of stealing is the same Isser Derais of eating chazer. The Isser Derais of turning on the light or breaking is the same as the rice of stealing and eating chazer. So why do you differentiate? So the art people, and I think it's good. You're talking to him or to me? Oh yeah, the what?
Your purpose is for if it's you bring in a store because Shem Shemayim, you're allowed.
He finally speaks up, and that's what. Come on, Gary. Okay, so Lamaisa, I know somebody. I know somebody that stole a lot of money, and he took that money and he built a mikveh with it. They gave him a lot of kavod, And you see a lot of times people, they have a guilty conscience after they steal. So they think, if they do something good with the money, they built a mikvah, they gave tzedakah with it. So that doesn't work. That doesn't help the gneva. It's still gneva. Mitzat sheni, something worse than that maybe, is when somebody steals something, he says to himself, I'm a ganav. So if I'm a ganav, then it doesn't even make sense that I should take trumas ha'maisros. Why should I take trumas ha'maisros? I'm a ganav. I'm going to steal, and then also I'm going to make a bracha and take trumas ha'maisros. And the answer is yeah. Just because you steal something, just because you do one aveira, doesn't mean that you should do other aveiras. Just because when I was younger, a chassid told me that he went off the derech. Why? Because he went to movies. I already went to movies. I'm ready to shaygits. Already they look down at me. So I'm Chal Shabbos also. What's the connection? What does one thing have to do with the other? So this guy has a big taiva. That's what I was trying to say. The guy has a big taiva. He likes to steal. That's his taiva. So not to take trumas ha'maisros, there's hardly any taiva. Why should you not take trumas ha'maisros? So Yisrael Salanter says that sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to go after a person for the easy stuff before the harder stuff. In other words, a person has a taiva, he can't control himself, and he sees something good and he takes it. Okay, that's one thing. It's a problem, but to not take trumas ha'maisros, what's your excuse? It's such an easy thing. What's the big? You have a taiva not to do trumas ha'maisros. On that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to get you good. That's what he says. So going back to my question, I don't know. I'm not the Rebbeinu Shalom, and I wasn't up there, and I don't know exactly. I'm saying, taking this idea that there are aveiros that are so easy not to do. Some people don't have a taiva to be Michal Shabbos. So why Michal Shabbos? Just because you stole, you should be Michal Shabbos? One thing has nothing to do with the other. Can't lump all aveiros into one thing. Zog the Gemara. But over here you have a guy, a ganav, a gazlam, a really bad guy, nasty guy, but he's a big tzaddik. He gives trumas ha'maisros, he takes the stuff, he gives it to the Beis Hamikdash, Hegdish, just duck with it. Great guy. Amri Hasam Mikashuni Hashem Dimikara Tivla Vashat Truma. It works by the ganav. Why? It becomes his because he changed the name. Now it's no longer Chulin. It's no longer Tevel. It's called Truma. It's no longer Chulin. It's called Hegdish. Hegdish Mikara Chulin. Hegdish Mikara Chulin Vashta Hegdish. Which is interesting. The Rishonim explained that it happens simultaneously because how do you get to change the name if it's not yours? And it becomes yours by changing the name. So it has to happen. It happens simultaneously. He made it Hegdish, and then it changed the name, and then he was able to do that because it changed the name. Omar Rav Chizda, Omar Yonis. How do you know this idea that if you change an object the way it is, you take a piece of wood, you fashion a chair out of it, it becomes the ganavs, he just has to pay for the wood. Shenemar, why does the Torah continue Asher Gazel? Of course, you're going to return the thievery, whatever the translation is, but you don't say that which you stole. Of course, that which you stole. You're not going to return something that you didn't steal. Says Gemara, no. Im kein shegozal yachzer. Vimlav dom ba'am boy shalume. Only if it's exactly like you stole, you have to give it back. If it's not exactly, you did something special to it, whatever, then you give back money. As the Gemara, shegozal mi boy limud gezel. I need it for something else. That if the father stole something, like the famous Maisa, it's not even such a this, but the parent-teacher conference, kid comes in, and the Rebbe says to the father, let me show you, kid mamish knows how to read. He says, what's underneath the Aleph? He says, comets, What's underneath the Beis? Comets, comets, Beis, ba. What's underneath the Dalid? And what's underneath the Hey? He says, no. So the Rebbe says, no, say it. No. He says, I want you to say. He says, but it's not, I can't. He says, say. He says, underneath the hay is the Rebbe's, my father stole the Rebbe's silver and he put it underneath the hay. Okay. The father's a ganav. For that, you didn't have to come back from Okay. Limud gezel Sheini moisav chayim mishal gezel The Rebbe Cheder and Kita Beis told it to us, but it's just, I thought it was funny then. It was. Exactly. Anyways, so here goes. If a person is a shomer chinam, and we catch him, he lies, he says it was stolen, but it turns out he liked the chayfetz himself, and he hid it in his house, and then he made a shvuah that he doesn't have it, and then he passes away. If he was alive and he admitted to it, he would have to pay a chaymish. You have to pay 25%, and you have to bring a carbon. But because he died, his son doesn't have to bring the chaymish. I would think that he has to bring the chaymish. Chaymish is 20%, but in English we call it 25%. Yeah, but the 20, but it's okay. Milibar miligav. It's what we call 25% today. It's 25%. Trust me. 20% means 25%. Huh? It's Panovich math, but it's real math. It just means in those days they used to go from the outside. They used to take the final number and take off 20%. Okay. So I would think they have to give a chaymish. The Torah says, no, let's use these two words that we just used a second ago. Oh no, so sorry. It should say you want to say not your father's, you don't have to pay for your father's stuff. That's good enough with the word gzeiloi. But why does the Torah add another word, Asher Gozal? I learned two halachas. First of all, I don't have to pay for my father's averis. I don't have to pay his chayvish. Second of all, I give back exactly the thing that I stole, and if I improved it, I don't have to give that item back. And some say the opposite. How do I know that if you made a difference, it does not become the ganim? It's not like we said a second ago, it does become the ganim. Give it back, in any way, in any form or whatever. Okay, any form that it's at right now, give it back. But it says the way it was stolen. This halacha just learned. Yes, it does say Asher Gazal. We're not going to learn two things from it. We'll only learn one. You don't have to pay the chaymish for your father. How do I know? I also hold, says Ula, that Yush just giving up when an owner says violate the chasar and kiss, I give up, that the ganav doesn't acquire. Here's a picture of a piseach, not halachically correct this picture. Piseach is a lame animal, but lame meaning that I'll never go back to being whole again. Maybe Yoshi did this because I just had to go on crutches the other day, and they did it for me. But it's a piseach, it's a chayla. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, why are you bringing me sick animals, sickly animals? You should bring me something nice, something good. And it's a good time, maybe, perhaps, that this is talking about tefillah, talking about korbanos. Today we don't have korbanos, we have tefillah. We, as a tzibur, we added tefillah and learning to our day, lizchos, the chayalim, that obviously we have to have a karas hatayv too. The chayalim out there who give up their lives, a lot of them have died, a lot of them have seen friends that died, a lot of them were injured, thousands have been injured, so that we could sit here comfortably in a heated or air-conditioned beautiful chairs from chairmarket.com, sitting here learning Torah. So we, most of us, took upon ourselves to learn a little bit more serious. The stolen one is similar to the lame one. Klal. What? Does it say klal by you? Yeah. The Leslie Takanta says klal by me also. Avgazel the Leslie Takanta, so too, the stolen item doesn't have any way out of it. It never becomes yours. You can never bring a stolen item to Beis HaMikdash. Rav Amar Mahacha. And Rav, as we had yesterday, just minus the last part that we had yesterday, now you're looking, you're seeing this is a big Amud, but this entire Amud is actually two words, and I'll explain in a second. Rav Amar Mahacha, Karban Gazel says in the pasuk, it should be your carbon, and don't steal a carbon. Emas, what is it talking about? If he didn't give up on it, the owner, then of course he can't bring it. It's the owners. You can't bring somebody else's animal and turn it into carbon. What do I need a pasuk for that? So it must be that the original owner gave up. And over here you see the idea that yush doesn't work. Shmamino. Says the Gemara Varava yesterday. If you didn't share yesterday, Varava the Omar the Gazel carbon the Chavrei. We're not talking about he stole an animal from his friend. We're talking about he actually stole a ready-made carbon. An animal that his friend said, this is a carbon chatas, I'm bringing this because I was Michal Shabbos, bring it as a chatas. And the chiddush is that if you're a ganav and you take it and you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, your friend is not yoitza the chatas. He has to bring another chatas. That's what we explained yesterday. Says the Gemara, Rava took it back. Okay, Nupshat and Daf Samach Zayin is different than Samach Vav. So the Goy Sabach says, that right after Rava was the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Papa was the Rosh Yeshiva. Says Taisus over it and brings also, this goes together with Taisus, that a lot of things that Rav Papa said were actually from Rava. So people got confused. They thought that Rav Papa is not saying his own Torah, he's saying over from Rava. But really it's Rav Papa's Memra, and Rava says the opposite. Rava says, like we said now, that Yush is not Koina. That we said yesterday that Rava said Yush is Koina, and the end of the story was that it's somebody else's carbon. That wasn't Rava, that was Rav Papa. There's a guy that was writing Sfarim. He's writing books. Huh? Yeah. What do you mean? Which part? Yeah, Chal okay. Chal Rav Papa Amara. There was a guy that, for Parnasa, he was writing a book. His friend said, what are you writing? He says, I'm writing stories about Gdolim. So what Gdolim are you writing about? He says, I have a friend who's very good at this, and he inserts the right name of the Gadol, whatever passed for that story, that's the one he puts in. So, Keinze, like, okay, we have an option. Chad minayu. It could be Rav Papa, it could be Rava. You decide which one. Umidas tashlumi arba v'chamisha. So this whole sugya, I'll tell you a regel achas. We learned yesterday when we have this. There's a concept called arba v'chamisha. If you steal a bull or a cow and you shecht it or sell either one of them, you have to pay 4 or 5. For a sheep, you pay 4. For a bull, you pay 5. There's no other animal you do this for. Special gzeira by a sheep and a bull. So, here's the pasuk. It says, "Given it is shar." Now the Gemara wants to know why not other animals. So Gemara says, because the word shar and se are extra. So first the Gemara says, is it the first shar se? No, it can't be the first. So is it the second shar se? No, it can't be the second one. And finally, after a whole amud, the Gemara says it must be the se in the beginning and the shar at the end. That's the whole sugya. So let's see inside. It says the Gemara like this. V'amai. Midas tashlumi arba v'chamish. V'amai. Why, if I steal somebody's lion and I sell it, why don't I have to pay 4 times? V'amai. Neilef shar mishamas. Let's learn from Shabbos. We know Hilchos Shabbos, your animal cannot work on Shabbos, whether it's a parrot, a donkey, a camel, it doesn't matter what it is. The Torah says shar set. It includes all animals. Let's include all animals. Since in this pasuk, as you see here, it says shar set twice. So one of them is extra. Shar set in midachrin aloi. It's only shar. Amri hey miyater. Which one is extra? Eli Mishar said the seifa miyater. So here, Yoshi did a very nice job here. If you say that the shar and the se all the way at the end of the pasuk are extra, you have to stick it instead of tachas. You say tachtav. V'arba tzoin tachtav. So kignov ish shar se utvachim mechar chamisha bagi sham tachtav. Take out the shar se. V'arba tzoin tachtav. Okay, so that's how I should say. If the Torah says it like that, look what would happen here. I think you have to pay 5 cows and 4 sheep for a total of 9, because it doesn't say 5 instead of the bull, 4 instead of the sheep. It just says 5 and 4 instead of. So maybe 5 plus 4 is 9, and you have to pay 9 for anything. Because the beginning of the pasuk says shar oiseh, you stole a bull or. Okay, so it's one or the other. Okay, you only stole 1, I get it. But what do you have to pay? You have to pay 9. Maybe that's why I have to say shar oiseh at the end of the pasuk. Okay, it says instead of, and instead of, so 5 instead of the bull, and 4 instead of the sheep. So it does say instead of. So why would I say that you need 9? It's 5 or 4. It's one or the other. So the Gemara, that one of these tachtavs is extra. Not true. I need the tachtav for something else. Therefore, it's not extra. Therefore, it can't be that the word shar and se are extra. Because then I'll think that I need 9. I'll think that I could just return anything. I could give, look, if I took this giant bull, I could give this sickly cow back. So therefore, I need the second tachtov to say that it has to be exactly like the original bull. Ella Sharva said the Reishim Yater. So let's try again. perhaps the first shar, and we'll take out the word oy also, the reishim yater. Shar said the reishim yater. Those are extra. It should just, let's forget about the first shar. But we'll know what we're talking about because the end of the pasuk talks about it. So therefore, the first shar and Sara are extra, and for that, from those words I learned, it's dafka, a bull and a sheep and nothing else. Says the Gemara, agon of trey v'tavach lahu. Since we're going to take out the first, look at in the beginning. We're taking out the word shar oisa. Oy splits it, but I don't have the word oy now. So I would think that in order to pay 4 and 5, you have to steal 2 types of animals. You have to steal a bull and a sheep. If you steal those 2 animals, then you could invoke this pasuk of arba v'chamisha. It doesn't say oy anywhere. It doesn't say if or. So perhaps it has to be both. Says Gemara, no, but it says utvachai ksiv. Tvachai means 1, singular, and you shechted it. L'chad. And the second, the Gemara will say, okay, maybe you shecht 1 and you leave 1. Okay, but what about maybe you have to sell both? But it says you sold 1. So we're talking about 1, not 2. Maybe I think they have to steal 2. And here, he did little pictures for everything. Maybe you have to shech both. And then maybe it says utvachai. Tvachai means only 1. I can't have a havin, it's 2. Oh, but maybe you have to sell both. Says the Gemara. Oh, now we're holding over here. Maybe the pshat is vema have the gun of trey. Maybe he stole 2. The pasuk is saying you have to steal 2. Why? Because it doesn't say it doesn't say or. It says you steal a bull and a sheep. But you're saying that it says utvachai that he only shechted 1. Okay, you're right. Here he shechted the sheep on the floor. It's dead, and he's selling the bull. But it says oy mecharei ksiv. It can't be. It says that he sold 1. Oy mecharei ksiv. Maybe it means that he stole 2. He shechted 1 and he left 1. Okay, because mechari means he sold, but maybe it doesn't mean that maybe it means that he kept 1 for himself like this. Maybe, okay, he sold 1, but he left 1 for himself. But you need 2. Who told you that if you steal 1, you chayiv? Ella says the Gemara, sure, the Sefer said the Reish Miyater. What the bottom line is, the word said in the beginning of the pasuk, the word shar at the end of the pasuk, that's what's extra. Ella sure the Sefer said the Reish Miyater. The Nichler Rachman, it should say, is shar utvachim charai. It says shar, but not seh. So in other words, the word shar at the beginning of the pasuk is going to teach us at the end of the pasuk. The word seh at the end of the pasuk will teach us for the beginning of the pasuk. Now I know it's one or the other, and I know that you have to either sell or shecht, but I don't need both. Shar, the Sefer said the Reish Lamali, what I need the extra words? Shmamino, shar v'se'in, mida achrina loy. So you see from here that only these 2 animals have the halach of arba v'chamisha, nothing else. Now, happens to be the Rambam says, time of the Torah, the reason why the Torah said dafka shar v'seh is because these are the animals that are usually they graze freely, and it's very easy for people to steal them. At the Yamazeh, you hear many stories that people come with trucks, grab cows, throw them in the truck, grab sheep. Here in Yisrael, I know for a fact, and that's one thing. The other thing is that the Achraim say that people would literally depend on their life on the cow. They would drink the milk, they would eat, and when you take the guy's food away, you're big Russia, so we punish you and you have to pay 4 to 5. What the Rav is saying is, since it's so easy to take, so we punish a person when he has to pay 4 times the amount, he'll think 5 times before. Let's just do this little piece over here. We learned in the Mishnah that if you steal from a thief, you don't pay double. This is talking about when the original owner didn't give up. But if the original owner gave up, whose item is it now? It's the Ganav's. And if it's the Ganav's and you steal from him, you have to pay kefil. So it comes out a very interesting thing, Rabbi Isai. This is a kasha from Mendy Auerbach. You should tell Mendy. It comes out Chayte Nisker. A guy steals an item. Listen to this. He steals something. The original owner gives up. So he has to pay the original owner twice. Now somebody comes and steals that animal from the ganav, and he shechts it. So now that guy has to pay the ganav 4 times. So he makes business. He's doing great. He steals an item and he makes 4 times the item because he stole it. It's not nice. Amina, I think the famous Rav, my Rebbe that I love so much, he was actually not 100% conscious when he said this. It's impossible. Why do you have to pay 4 times? Because he's rooted in sin. Says Gemara Amos. What is it talking about? If it's talking about before the guy gave up, when you sell something before the original owner gave up, it's not even a sale. It never went to the other guy. So what happened? So the original guy gave up. And if Yush, actually you acquire it by giving up, why would you have to pay 4 and 5? It's yours. You're the ganav. It became yours. You don't have to pay 4 and 5. Amri, so the Gemara says, over here, even without Yush, you have to pay 4 or 5. Why? Because you sinned twice. If you would have just sinned, you just take it fine. You sin it, and then you shecht it. For that, adding to the chet, doubling up on the chet, that's why you have to pay 4 or 5. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.